Right, so now we're getting towards our bounce, our stereo bounce, our mix down, which in the old day would have been recording into 2-track tape. Now we just let the computer calculate it offline to become a stereo file, so we don't even have to go through the whole thing. And now we've listened to our song over and over and over, and you might remember my last time I was here last week. I was saying, well, okay, so I've spent an hour and a half on mixing it, and it's great, that's all it took after all that good setup earlier. And since then, I've had a few more little tweaks. I was thinking, no, I think I can't really leave it like that. And that's kind of a typical thing. So you do a mix and you think, hey, this is great. You listen to it a few days later, you go, this is awful. And ideally, you can also, if you don't have time pressure, if this is your own project, you can leave a few months and you can come back and you go, oh, that's interesting. And it might give you a really fresh perspective, because if you get quite wrapped up in a mix, you lose so much distance. It's all the little things that you've worked over and over in little loops, they become ingrained. And basically what happens, I think, is you kind of learn the song off by heart. You learn all those instruments, you know it all, and if you know it too well, it's kind of, as you listen to it, it's like you remember all the bits that you know already. Yes, and now the bassist does that, and then, that's right, and then the drums do that, and you're kind of constantly kind of reciting this thing to yourself. And if you find that is making you less objective, that's when it's good to have some time. Just put some time between yourself and the song, and then you can hear it with a little bit more distance again, be a little bit less familiar with it. So what did I do in this particular case? Well, I thought it all had a bit too much reverb and delay and stuff on it, so I just tamed that a bit in various bits, like on the guitar and the break, that was just too reverby. The vocals in the in a lead-up bit were too reverby. The vocals in the final chorus were too reverby, and the vocals in the outro were too reverby. Another thing was that note that I'd fixed, wherever it was. Yes, this note that I fixed. The fix had just been a little bit too sloppy, so I fixed that fix. And then one kind of a quality kind of control kind of thing, I realized, you might remember the bass guitar, I'd bumped up the presence a bit in my EQ, because hey, it needs a bit of presence. But then I realized, listening to it again, that the bass is a little bit sloppy timing wise at times, and so I just kind of dialed that back a bit again, so it's not quite so distinct anymore, and I've also taken out a little bit of its bottom end, because it does get a bit, I find it does make it a little bit messy at times. So those were just my various fixes. I didn't need to play you each of those at all. It's just so you know this kind of the workflow. You do one mix, then you think about it, you listen to it again. Oh no, that should be that, and then you have several run-throughs, is what I'm saying. Now, before we can bounce, let's just have a little listen to the gain structure, yeah? Let's just have a listen. And I think the third chorus is the loudest. Sorry, hang on. If this is at 0, it's peaking. Similarly in the instrumental. So this really needs to come down a bit. And I can do that either here, that's 7 dB, that's quite a bit. I think maybe around 5 is all I need. But rather than doing that on the master fader, what this means is that whatever is coming into the master fader is overloading, and I'm kind of fixing it after the fact. It's already kind of blowing out the bus bit. Now we're doing 32-bit floating point internal, which means it can handle that. You've got about 12 dB of headroom. But I'm wanting to fix this anyway before it gets to the master bus, because some plugins just can't handle it. Now these plugins, they can, but some third-party plugins, especially if they model vintage gear, they can't. So it's just a good practice thing to change it before it gets to the master fader. So, okay, so I figured out my master Needs to be about 5 dB down. But I want to have that at 0, and I want to fix that before it gets to the master. So I've made myself a group for all groups that I can do this kind of stuff. But we have to remember that the vocals are actually just controlled directly from the volume automation in its tracks. So I kind of have to match the vocals here manually because I didn't make a subgroup for them. I should have made a subgroup for that vocal after all. Okay, so let's say I'll just take it down in its channel strip here, right at the source. Taking this down to 5, -5, and I'm doing the same thing with all of these. Go down to -5, and let's have a little listen to that stuff now. Sorry, to do a fine adjustment, you hold command at the same time. So see, it's now moving much slower with much greater precision. Okay, and this to 0, please. Let's have a listen there. You still see it where it's peaking, yeah? Okay, now quick little listen.
Please give me something to hold, something to numb my feeling alone. Beginning to think that the older we get, the more we think the less we know.
Okay, it wasn't enough yet. So that's really where we want to be. We'll go down to 6. That's quite a collectively quite a bit. -6. Okay. Okay, now even the peak of the song has been tamed. There is no overs anymore. Of course, I'm doing the fast version of this. I'd be listening to the whole song and making sure that there's no overs, that it never goes into the red without being stupidly quiet. And now that I've fixed my gain structure here to the master, I am going to bounce the song. And to do that, I go to bounce to disk. I don't need to select any of the tracks. I don't need to set for how long, where it starts or where it ends. It just does it all automatically for me. I'm going to call this Rock Song 6B. And what I want to bounce is my source here, which is the built-in output 1, 2. That's the one that's on all these channels. That's what we want to bounce. WAV, now by default you might go to multiple mono if you didn't have interleaved checked when you were setting up the session. But we want this interleaved as opposed to a separate left and right files, otherwise it's a real pain to handle. So bounce interleaved, 24-bit and 44.1 kilohertz. And I want to import it after the bounce so that I can see what it looks like. And now it is bouncing. Okay, destination, new track. So here it is. Let's click E to zoom in. And there it is. Beautiful. That's a good level. It's not too slammed. These bits here, I would eventually I would probably re-listen to make sure that there's nothing, it doesn't look too bad. But yeah, like I said before, I would have actually checked the whole. There's that one here. Well, it's not quite touching. That's good. Okay. But yeah, so I would just go through this whole thing and make sure that there's no peaks. Another future check here, as you can see. But overall, this looks like a good kind of level. Not too quiet, not too loud. Giving the ample headroom at times, but where the peaks are happening, it's reasonably close to 0. You can also get away with all of this being maybe 4 to 6 dB quieter even. It's fine with me too. Just don't have it stupidly quiet. And yeah, so maybe, I mean, this is kind of as loud as, this is kind of the maximum that you should have it. be on the safe side, make it a little bit quiet. Okay, so there it is. Now I'm also going to upload for you this week the existing mix of the song, so you can have a listen to what that sounds like compared to how I've been developing the song over this workshop, if you like. So that should make for an interesting revelation, potentially. Okay, and that brings our workshops to a close. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned how to use Pro Tools a bit, and you have learned a bit about mixing a song. It's just been a rock song, just a sort of a standard song. We haven't gotten too crazy with electronics or anything, but all this you have so much to look forward to over the course of your degree. This was an introduction.